Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm Bruce Richman. I'm the founding executive director of Prevention Access Campaign, and we're really thrilled today to talk with you about the U=U global movement, which is really a revolution and what it means to live and love with HIV around the world. I'm thrilled to introduce my colleague, Jacqueline Alessi, who is the director of the U=U Global Community Leadership. Jacqueline, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Alessi. I am based in Kampala, Uganda. Like Bruce said, I'm the director of U=U Global Community Leadership with Prevention Access Campaign. I'm going to be introducing the U=U revolution. Probably most of you know U=U, but U=U is an acronym that means undetectable equals untransmissible. And this is when people living with HIV are on treatment and have undetectable viral load and cannot transmit HIV. The known copies are below 200, but and this is what we call U=U. Prevention Access Campaign started all the way in 2016, where activists, researchers, health workers, and different officials launched the U=U. It started on 3 pillars, which is building a global science based on consensus, disseminating widely known U=U science, and also advocating access of quality treatment and care for people living with HIV to stay healthy. We've successfully and confidently finished the number 1, that is the building of global science based on consensus. And now we are working on disseminating U=U and advocating the access to quality treatment. Why is U=U a game changer? I'll start by sharing a very brief story. I was diagnosed with HIV in 2003. And for the past years, I actually officially started treatment in 2009. And this is where I really, ever since I started treatment until now, I have really felt that improving my life of quality has improved. And U=U is something that I really embrace, because I am married, I have children, and they're all HIV negative. And to me, this is why I call U=U a game changer. It improves the quality of life people living with HIV. It reduces HIV stigma. It also accelerates progress towards the 95-95 targets. And that's what we mean by diagnosis, treatment, and viral load. And this is something that we really see as something that happens because of U=U. It also modernizes discriminatory laws, policies, and practices, and also calls for universal access to treatment, care, and diagnostics. Knowing that U=U is a game changer, we also have to embrace the fact that we are in exciting times, especially for people living with HIV. U=U is a game changer, and that means access to treatment and care, because when people living with HIV have what they need to stay healthy, and then U=U becomes reality. That means this is the key to ending the epidemic. And this is what we call the win-win strategy, where we see there is access to services, there is access to information, and then we look at ending the epidemic. It's both for the personal health and the public health. This is what we mean when we say the win-win strategy. Knowing that U=U is a win-win for everyone, one of the things that has been very important, that science doesn't have published. That's why this campaign was needed from the start, and a conclusion on the science wasn't being promoted. So the U=U is promoting science. And when it comes to also knowing the stigma, HIV stigma, and U=U would realize that, the HIV stigma is a public health emergency, while U=U is an immediate response. And that's why we are making this a very important call. So we have no time to waste, and this is something that we want to make sure that happens. So U equals U has been a global response. Very many partners countries have really pushed this forward, and some have risked their personal and professional reputation. And this to mention a few, we have over 105 countries and over 1,050 partners, network partners who have really signed on this globally. And this is also to mention a few that we have global endorsements who have made the U equals U appear in their documents and also partners. This is tremendous strength from top bottom to bottom up. So some of them you already know them, or you already know all of them. And this is PEPFAR. We've seen PEPFAR endorsing, including it in their current COP. We've seen WHO having it part of their consolidated guidelines, the one of 2021. We've also seen them include it in the joint statement in 2020. And also we've seen CDC endorsing U equals U. And this is something that is very, very important to us, where it has really stated that ViroRoad is 100% effective for prevention of HIV sexual transmission. We've also had we've seen these endorsements via social media. We have seen PEPFAR, UNAIDS, and CDC. They are verified pages actually mentioning about U equals U, and this is very, very important to note about. We've seen some countries have fully endorsed U equals U, and one of them is Brazil, which has really integrated U equals U in their official HIV guidelines. And we've seen Japan also have U equals U part of their national guidelines. We've had U equals U in the medical journals, and these are journals which can always be, you can always have them online, the Lancet, the JAMA, and the New England Journal of Medicine. The recent one has also been the IAS, where we've seen U equals U future in there. We've had regional conferences, like the Asian Stigma and Discrimination Forum in Asia, where we've seen presentations made. We've had, we were part of the Gulf region, Dubai, where we saw a very great response of U equals U, where one of the ministers presented and said U equals U is a war between ignorance and knowledge. And to us, that is really very important message that we really appreciate, and it's great. We've also had national conferences. One of them was in India, and we were very happy that, you know, most of the materials that were shared in this conference, the AIDS Society of India had the U equals U message. So we really saw that the hashtag of end AIDS, but it was really focused on U equals U in reality. We've had the Japan HIV Research Society, which also did several cities in Japan, and this was a very great conference also. China also had a conference of young people that UNAIDS really was part of, and CDC in China made a statement in agreement with U equals U being a win-win. We've had also the Russian conference, that is 2021, and this is where we also saw very great presentation that was made. These are all examples of the different campaigns. Also, we've had campaigns in Ukraine, and also on behalf of Prevention Access Campaign, we want to say that our hearts are with people in Ukraine, and we are really praying and putting them in our prayers. So these are some of the campaigns that have happened. We've had many national campaigns in Zambia, Kenya, Vietnam, and this is the former president of Zambia who was wearing the U equals U t-shirt. That means it's really at the heart of everyone, countrywide and globally. These are examples of different materials and messages that have gone out, and we can always share this for members to have a look at them. We've seen Japan had very good messages there. We've also seen Taiwan, Korea, who have done an excellent work in also making this happen. This is just a different networks, Ireland, Vietnam, and Argentina, who have actually done a great work in presenting U equals U. So at this time, I want to welcome my colleague, Bruce Richman, to take us through the next slides and also to officially do the communication, what it means of U equals U. Over to you, Bruce. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to talk about communicating U equals U. Why is it important? What's the impact of communicating it? And some tips that we've learned from around the world about how to do it, and then how you can get involved. So what's the impact of communicating U equals U? Well, there was a study called Positive Perspectives 2, which was in 25 countries that showed when healthcare professionals informed their patients with HIV about U equals U, they reported better overall health, better mental health, better sexual health, greater viral suppression, more comfort sharing their status with people, and better adherence. So it's really important for healthcare professionals to share this information with people with HIV, because we're seeing these positive health outcomes. And it's important to be sharing this information with people who are getting tested for HIV, because we were seeing, there's this one study in South Africa that shows that when men were informed about U equals U in HIV testing outreach, they were 89% more likely to get tested for HIV than those who were not informed about U equals U in the testing outreach. So as Jacqueline said very early on in the presentation, that this knowledge about U equals U is accelerating progress towards 95, 95, 95, because we're seeing more people getting tested, more people going on treatment and getting virally suppressed because they've learned about U equals U. So how do we communicate U equals U? It's not that difficult. Sometimes people get confused and feel it's too nuanced. It's really not. The main thing is take your treatment, get your labs done, and stay in care. So TLC is what we call it in the United States. Treatment, labs, and care, and live your life. This isn't very complicated. Medication works if you take it, and you take it consistently, and you stay in care. And as Jacqueline said earlier, the number to remember is 200 copies per milliliter is untransmittable. So when we're talking about U equals U with our patients or in any forum, we're describing it, the words that we choose and the way that we say U equals U matters. So we need to be clear, we need to be confident, we need to be consistent in our language, and we also need to be conscious in the ways that we talk about U equals U. And I'm going to go a bit deeper into each of these. So first, it's really important to be clear. We do not want to say the words on the left, right? Because anything that opens up a little window of risk, like extremely unlikely or helps prevent, these things continue to open up a window of risk. And that puts our lives as people with HIV at risk. And it undermines all the impact of the message. The reality is there is no risk. We can't pass it on. We can say 0, we can say 100% effective. As Jacqueline showed earlier, we have the backing of the world's greatest medical, scientific establishments and leaders are saying 0 and saying no risk or 100% effective. So there's plenty of backing for us to be very clear in our language. And the other thing is let's be confident. We need to be confident. I think you probably heard people say, I believe in U equals U, but just use a condom or just use PrEP just in case. Well, the reality is what you're saying is I don't believe in U equals U if you say that someone actually needs to use PrEP. Condoms or PrEP are not clinically necessary when somebody has an undetectable status, when you're having sex with someone who is undetectable. U equals U is solid, but you might want to talk about using condoms or PrEP if with condoms to prevent pregnancy or other STIs. If the partner with HIV is struggling with adherence, there's no shame in using PrEP or condoms. It's an added feeling of security, or with certainly having sex with partners outside of the partner who is undetectable. If you're having sex with partners who you don't know their status, then you could consider condoms or PrEP. But U equals U on its own does not require anyone to be using condoms or PrEP to prevent HIV. For other STIs or pregnancy, you can think about it. We also hear this is really scary when doctors say you're only as good as your last viral load test. Well, that's scary. To Jacqueline or to myself, someone like that, that means, oh my gosh, well, I got my viral load test 3 months ago, or some people 6 months or a year ago. That means at any moment I could be infectious again, even though I'm taking my medication every day, or and there shouldn't be any reason for me to be afraid. But this kind of messaging makes people afraid. And the reality is that that undetectability is durable. If you take your medication and you're having your viral load test done on a regular basis, that's advised by your doctor, you don't need to worry in between tests. You do not need to have that fear in between tests. So if you're taking your medication as prescribed, get your test done. Don't worry about it. People with HIV have lived in fear for so long. Now is our time to be confident that the medication we take every day to keep us healthy also means we can't pass on HIV. And then there's that catch-all. Sometimes you'll hear someone say, oh, well, you never know with U equals U. We hear that sometimes. But the truth is, we do know. U equals U works, and we need to take our medication, have access to the medication and services and care to help us stay U equals U. Also, it needs to be consistent, because we know change is hard, change is uncomfortable. So we need to hear it repeatedly from the right messengers and the right sources. We need to hear it from different channels and clinical rooms and newsletters, guidelines, and speeches. We need to have conversations with people when they're getting tested for HIV, when they're diagnosed, when they come in to get their lab tests, continually reminding people about this, because it's a big change. And also, we need to be conscious about it when we're talking about U equals U, and be very clear that a lot of people have barriers to care that make it difficult or impossible to get to U equals U. And there should be no shame towards anyone who doesn't have an undetectable viral load. We really need to have our phrasing in a way that no one living with HIV is a danger, regardless of viral load. And what we must continue to do, as Jacqueline said earlier, is use this win-win argument and advocacy to make sure that everyone with HIV has the opportunity to experience U equals U and live free and healthy without the fear of transmitting HIV. So we need to really work towards that, to leave no one behind. And really quickly, here are the words from one of the most important researchers in the field, Alison Roger, who was the lead author of the partner studies, the really seminal studies that really confirmed U equals U. This is what she said when we asked her, what would you say to healthcare professionals or anyone withholding this information from people with HIV?
I think the time for excuses are over. I think it's very, very clear that the risk is zero. So I very much think we have to promote this. I think if you're on suppressive ART, you're sexually non-infectious, and yeah, the time for excuses is over. And I again pay tribute to you and your work.
Well said. Thank you, Alison.
So some of the things that people say of reasons not to inform U equals U are not reasons. One is people won't understand it. Well, it's up to us to teach people about it. Another is that I don't know if I have authority to talk about U equals U. We do have authority from the WHO, from UNAIDS, from the CDC, the highest levels of the land. Another is that people with HIV will be dishonest and not talk about and be detectable, but then say they're undetectable. That's just condescending to people with HIV. We are not inherently liars. That's no reason to withhold the information. Some people say this is irrelevant to people who don't have access to care, but the reality is we can use this as an argument and advocacy to ensure people have access to care. It's so important. It's good for us and good to end the epidemic. Again, that kind of paternalism, people with HIV won't understand this information, but we need to share it with them. And shaming people who don't have an undetectable viral load is not okay. We need to make sure that in our phrasing, we lift everyone up. There are ways to do that. If you come to our website, we have a searchable database that can show you all kinds of options for communicating U equals U. There are a lot of resources for healthcare professionals that you can access through our site. And finally, how can you join the movement? First, it's really important that governments are integrating U equals U into their national guidelines and policies and strategies and laws. We need to educate healthcare professionals and the community like we're doing today about U equals U. We need to make sure this is being promoted repeatedly and clearly in all of our health communications at every opportunity, and you can use the hashtag U equals U. And we must make sure that we are working to increase barriers and remove, and we must ensure that we're working to increase access and remove barriers to treatment, care, and services so everyone has the opportunity to get to U equals U. So thank you so much. This is our email. Our email's right here. Jacqueline and I would love to hear from you. Our website's here for more information. We hope that you will continue to work together to share this message that changes what it means to live and love with HIV around the world. Thank you so much.